What's next on the agenda for People First? Because it's certainly not going away. We've got an incredible leader in Gerard Rennick. I know that you're here to talk about getting the West Australian branch going. What would you like to tell the viewers about that?
Absolutely. So, People First, the message that Gerard Rennick has been talking about needs to happen. Like, there's no resolve. So, while there's no resolve, we don't stop. Like, it's got to continue. Gerard Rennick with People First has committed to taking the party beyond, even though we don't have a voice in Parliament. You know, it's time now for us just to be the people's lobbyists. So let's have that conversation going. He's actually going to be continuing his messaging and making sure that he's asking the questions, demanding accountability from those who are meant to be giving us representation in Parliament.
So, Jody, you ran in the latest federal election for the Senate in Western Australia.
That's great.
How did you find that experience?
Look, it was an amazing experience. It was very short and sharp for us, I will admit, very late to the party. We were just under 4 weeks, so basically 3 and a bit weeks. Madison King and myself stood up for People First Party here in WA. And it was an amazing response, like the support that we had and the people looking for answers, and to be able to stand up and say what was currently on offer is not good enough. And they were demanding a voice that would actually reflect what they were thinking and what they were wanting to be exposed and put out there. And the conversation that we were able to have, because we ran with Gerard Rennick's People First, you know, that really resonated with people. So it was a really encouraging exercise. And, you know, we weren't successful, but at the end of the day, we really did see people stepping up, back up, whereas a lot of people were, after the state election here in WA and the shenanigans that went on there, this gave people an outlet for positivity, for taking back what they felt that they had lost. And I was very proud to be a part of that, and I was very proud to run with Madison King, and to be able to put the issues on the table. I really enjoyed the process, and I'm very proud of what we accomplished.
Yeah, and of course, the People First Party is Gerard Rennick's party, really more focusing on the Senate. Gerard is just one of the most amazing man in Australian politics. Unfortunately, he's lost his seat now. But how did it feel to be working with him, and how was it that you came to be involved with him in the first place?
Yeah, great question. So I first met Gerard Rennick in 2022. So over in Brisbane, I went to the rallies. I was just like the rest of Australia, had pretty well lost so much due to the mandates, due to the choices that the current government on a state and a federal level had put before us. And just demanding answers. And he was brave enough to come out and join the protests and to meet the people and answer our questions. And I must admit, I grilled him. I grilled him very well. And he didn't shy away from any of the questions that I had. He had extremely thought out and reasonable answers. And it really did impress me. And he was very generous with his time to answer my questions, to really let me know and give me hope that, you know, he's quite intelligent. And what was on offer at that stage, you know, it wasn't the final solution. There are options out there. And that's the one thing that I, stepping into politics for the first time, chose to work with him, because he's actually got answers. He's not saying just what we're all thinking, but he's actually thought about it, and he's got solutions that are very plausible to put into place. So, you know, for me, I need solutions now. We've all been put through the mill. It's great to have to say what we're all thinking, but how many times can you talk about the problem It's now time that we actually have solutions, and Gerard Rennick has solutions on the table ready to go. And after the election is now said and done, I am pleased to see that the other parties have been picking up his policies and starting to implement them and starting to speak about them. And if that's at least something positive to come out of the election, even though he has lost his seat, we weren't successful at having a seat at the table. The solutions are being talked about on a wider scale now, and being picked up. So it's a good start.
So from that aspect, you must have been incredibly proud to be picked up by him for his party.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, too extremely intimidated. It's not exactly a position that I saw myself in. So definitely became a candidate quite reluctantly, yeah, just because I think, like most Australians, we just like to get on with life. And I like to do things from the back end rather than from the front end. But, you do get to that point where it's a case of, okay, well, he's obviously seen something in me that I can bring to the table. And I think when you've seen what you've seen, you've heard what you've heard, you read the legislation, you know what's coming down the line. How do you step away from that? Like, how do you say no when you're faced with the ability to create some form of change? It's like the pebble, with you throw it into the pond, and you never know where those rings are going to reach out to. So yeah, I was honoured when he did ask me, and so stepping into the ring, however daunting it is, I'm very grateful for the people that has brought me in contact with, and also to really see the hope that comes back on when people do see that, yes, you're stepping up as just anybody, a nobody, stepping into the ring with conviction, with honesty. At the end of the day, that's what people and fellow Australians are looking for.
Yeah.
And I think as we go through now the next 3 years, that needs to continue. The time for us to be able to get on with life as it is, well, life is not what it was. We've turned a corner. There is no going back. And we either realize and accept that the time for sitting back is gone, and we need to be stepping up and stepping in and helping to encourage each other to do the same. It's a case of, like, for evil to prevail, good men and women
Yep.
need do nothing.
Exactly.
And this is the time that we're in.
And I'm so glad you got onto that, because just for the people out there that are potentially interested in getting involved in politics, like you have, okay, you weren't successful, but you certainly put your hat in the ring. You were really just a regular citizen, but then you started to become involved through the pandemic. And can you tell people a little bit about what the Port Hedland motion was all about? Because that was really what gave you that step up, isn't it?
It did. The Port Hedland motion, it's something that I'm honoured to be a part of. The driving force is the team from Port Hedland. Adrian McRae and the team there are amazing. And they're really a bit of the unsung heroes, actually, because they stepped up and they put their heart and soul into it. They put pen to paper, and they actually, stepped out of line and tried to and continuing to put the people of Australia first. Like, we've got a real injustice going on here, and such as Gerard Rennick has been also too pushing out. The Port Hedland motion is about demanding answers. Why is the council, not to mention the state and the federal government, who all knew that there was contamination into the vaccines? The TGA, how many times have we heard Gerard Rennick trying to bring them to task on why have they, knowing what they know, still allowed these medical interventions to happen?
And they're continuing to do it.
Absolutely.
So, but what was it that brought you to that level that gave you that step up to actually run for politics? Because again, you were just a regular person. You got involved with the Port Hedland motion. I would like to touch on, if you can, what that was all about. But what motivated you to take this all on?
Um, I think you ended a destination with a journey of 1,000 steps.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, it's just one thing after the other. Doors will open and doors will close. You know, we all come to junctions of life and you either go left or you go right. And that will come down to your own personal conviction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, for those of us who had our lives changed, how do you go back and not, you know, how do you let an injustice go
Mm.
when you know you've seen it do so much damage?
Yeah.
And for the Port Hedland motion in particular, for everyone, and there's a huge team behind that now across Australia, and it's even gone international, where we're asking our councils across the country to write to our MPs, our senators, to the Prime Minister, and to make them accountable, to ask them the question, why is the truth not coming out? You know, let's release this information. Why are, you know, our media, why are they not shouting this from the rooftops? You know, the evidence is there, and the Port Hedland motion is all about getting the evidence. We've got the virologist report, we've got professors' reports, we've got doctors' reports. Like, if they're talking about trust the science, this is the science.
Yeah.
This is unequivocal information that is evidence that has not just been done once but several times, and it's been put out there, and yet it's been shadowed, it's been put in and swept underneath the carpet for everyday Australians to still not be aware of the you know, the ramifications after they've had a strongly encouraged medical intervention that they don't necessarily need. So the Port Hedland motion is about trying to have that message put to everyday Australians so that they can be more informed on their health, instead of having medications that have seemingly to be more than a medication. You know, it's just so destructive.
Yep.
And Australians can't make their own choice of whether they choose to accept this or not accept this, because they just simply are not given the full information.
Yeah.
That's what the Port Hedland motion is about. Let's inform Australians so that they can make their own decisions on their health choices for their bodies and for their families.
So this is a grassroots action for everybody to become involved in. You don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be some big leader in the community. It's for everyone. So for people out there who may be interested in getting involved in this, how would you go about it?
Look for the Port Hedland motion, porthedlandmotion.info. Head over to that website. That's going to have all the information you need. Download it. Share it with your counsellors. What we are encouraging is you go and have a conversation one-to-one with each of your counsellors. You know, they need to see the information. They don't know. They need to be educated to understand. Therefore, when you do go to a council meeting, then that's time, once you've gone and spoken and shared that with individual councillors and to your mayor, then head off, grab your team, get your community together, you know, get your local doctors who understand what's going on, have them go to the council meetings. Let's put this petition forward as a motion, and, you know, ask your councillors to have this not just as an individual stand, but as a council stand.
Yep.
You know, that is the community. This affects that community. We've had mandates, and that community is losing their jobs. You know, we're burying people. We've got disabilities are going through the roof. You know, we've got families that are fractured. People are losing their homes. I mean, it's already hard enough. Let's take some pressure off. Let's get the councils understanding the situation, understanding the evidence. Let's get those motions put forward on every council across Australia, so that on that base council level, it is, you know, you're free to be able to get on with life, you know, and have that turn. Once again, it's about having the council also to go to that state level and go to that federal level. You know, the more times we go into the offices of our MPs, into our senators, into the Prime Minister, the more they're going to have to address this issue.
Perfect. And I mean, I think obviously most people in Australia, we're talking about Australia, most people in the community don't realise that they can do things like that.
Mm.
People should go to their local chambers, find out who it is, ask questions directly to those politicians. It's so incredibly powerful.
Definitely. You are paying their wages.
Absolutely. So look, let's move on. Let's get back to people first because that's really what we're here to talk about. What's next on the agenda for People First? Because it's certainly not going away. We've got an incredible leader in Gerard Rennick. Um, I know that you're here to talk about getting the West Australian branch going. What would you like to tell the viewers about that?
Absolutely. So, people first, the message that Gerard Rennick has been talking about needs to happen. Like, there's no resolve. So, while there's no resolve, we don't stop. Like, it's got to continue. Gerard Rennick with People First has committed to taking the party beyond, even though we don't have a voice in Parliament. You know, it's time now for us just to be the people's lobbyists. So let's have that conversation going. He's actually going to be continuing his messaging and making sure that he's asking the questions, demanding accountability from those who are meant to be giving us representation in Parliament. So in Western Australia particular, yes, we are got People First Party that is going to be a branch here in WA so that we can continue our voice here in WA. We've got 3 years until the next election, and now is the time to make sure that, you know, we are a strong voice,
Yep.
that what we are demanding answers for, that we continue to have that loud and clear front and centre. So I would love for people to come on board. The membership for People First Party, to jump onto the website, grab your membership there. Please send us an email at wa@peoplefirstparty.au. To be able to find out more information on how you can help. So this is definitely grassroots. WA will be standing on its own with People First. And let's get ready for 3 years. And then we've got the state election in 4 years. And I think, you know, we really need to, like, Labor is in, we can see clearly how they've restructured and reframed for their socialistic ideals. You know, those of us who understand, we've got 3 years to continue the conversation and help those people who may not understand why we're getting more taxes, why businesses are now having extra layers of red tape, why is our superannuation now stepping that up another gear where it's untouchable. So personally, I'm really concerned about the health treaties. We've got Penny Wong and Mark Butler are really spending our taxpayer money on Indonesian health rather than Australian health, on World Health Organization admin. You know, we've got the money that should be spent here on our current departments are being a third layer of government departments to serve the regulations that are coming down from an external organisation. You know, Gerard Rennick is really concerned about tax treaties. Now, tax treaties that are not serving Australia. We've got banks that are not paying their fair way, and they have our debt. Like, we are, they're basically really hurting the everyday family and the everyday individual who is trying to get ahead. So that is one of the reasons why we are standing up. There's just two of the groups of treaties or the industry of treaties that are taking from Australia, not building Australia, and that needs to be changed. That needs to be turned around. What is the representation that we have in there right now? I think Australians are going to find the reality that our new leaders in and the having Labor back in is not going to be serving Australia. We are really going to be seeing the true policies of what they've been very quietly bringing forward. We're going to see that floodgates open and come in. And this is the reason why I am asking everyday Australians to stand up, to be vocal, to come and join People First, but get behind the minor parties who are valuing Australia, because at the end of the day, it's about our future. It's about our children's future. If we don't speak up now, will we be able to get it back? I don't know.
Yeah, and look, and meanwhile, Anthony Albanese, I don't know if you've seen this, but he's now, after the third highest pay rise in a row that the government have given to themselves, he's now the highest paid leader in the world. This feckless man is setting himself up for the rest of his life
Yeah.
to live a wealthy life, and yet all of us here in Australia are doing it tougher and tougher.
Absolutely. I mean, what an insult to the Australian people. They've just, and not even, well, we got 34% actually voted for him, and now he's in a majority position.
Yeah.
It's very questionable. So for him to then take advantage of the Australian people at this time, I think it really does show his true colours. He is about himself. He's about handing Australia over to other countries, and that's just not okay on any level.